I'm recording. So it is officially 5 o'clock in Pacific time, where I'm at. And I am going to start the lecture. Hope you guys can see my screen. Um, yeah. So, we have 18 people today, 19 people today. Um, kind of expected more people, because there were like 40 people who said they were interested in the event, but 19 is fine. 20 people is fine. Welcome, welcome. We're gonna start the lecture like right now. Alright, everyone, hello. I am irunwithscissors. That is my Discord username. We're going to be looking at AP World History, Unit 6. And I purposefully, I purposefully chose to lecture on Unit 6 because it's a pretty important unit of study for the exam, more so than, Unit 1 or Unit, 8. Um, and if you were with me last week, where we covered Unit 3, I also believe in Unit 3 being very important. So 3 and 6 uh re go really in depth, or not really in depth, but they show up a lot on the exam, which is why I wanted to get into it. You cannot hear me. Hello? Hello? Please tell me if you can hear me. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Can you hear me well? Someone someone type in the chat. Someone type in the chat, please. If you can hear me. Hello? Hello? I hope you guys can hear me. Okay. Well, I don't see anyone saying that you don't hear me anymore. So, um, yeah, so Unit 6 is very important, which is why I've decided to cover it. You guys just want to get started, or you have more technical difficulties or something? Okay, let's just get started. So, I have to, as a lecturer, I have to, put this on my slide, but, so, I run with scissors, and so I'm part of a student organization. You seriously can't hear? Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Please type in chat if you can hear me. Please type in chat if you can hear me. Oh my god, wait, so the entire time I was like, it was silent. Oh my gosh. That was not good. No wonder no one was typing in chat. I was so confused. Oh my goodness. Alright, I'm sorry. That's my bad. That's my bad. That's my bad. Alright, I have to say everything again. Alright, well, um, yeah, okay, so if you were with me last week, I reviewed Unit 3 of AP World. Um, because it's a pretty important topic on the exam. It shows up a lot, Unit 3. And I've also chosen to review Unit 6 because it's really important for the exam as well. It shows up a lot. More so than, like Unit 1 or 8, right? So, yeah, that's why I chose Unit 6. I will probably do a Unit 7 review sometime in the future, but TBD, okay? The World Wars are pretty significant in history as well. Yes, Unit 6 and then Unit 7. Um, but yeah, so stay tuned. I'm I run with scissors if you couldn't tell. That's my Discord username. Anyways, let's just get into it because we've wasted enough time already. Okay. So, as a lecturer for this server, I have to put this slide in. So I run with scissors, right? I'm a part of a Five Hive organization, and so Five Hive is a student organization where we um we basically help a bunch of students like you with your AP exams or AP studying or creating materials for you guys so you can read articles and uh do like multiple choice and free response questions for free, right? It's all for free, and there's practice exams I believe as well. It's super cool. You should check out 55.org, right? Just like that. And yeah, it's led by Lance. He's a cool guy. I think he goes to like John Hopkins University or something. Yeah, so if you want to be like me or something, and you want to like join the the team, right? You want to like lecture just like me, like say you're really good at like calculus or you're really good at like EP French or something, you should totally join, and you can teach others, right? And usually, um, okay, you know what? I'm talking too much. Just, if you're interested, do the application. I sent it in the chat. Let's get on with it. Okay, and then I also have to say this. AP is a trademark registered by the College Board, which is not affiliated with and does not endorse this resource, nor the 5 team. Okay, we are just a independent organization. We have nothing to do with uh, College Board. Cool. All right. So we're gonna do a check-in. It's not even gonna. I say it's gonna be in the middle of the lecture, but it's not really. It's gonna be towards the end, and then we're also gonna have an SAQ at the end to help you guys practice with your essay writing. Um, there's a Q&A at the end as well, but honestly, I don't really like having Q&As at the end, so I just have Q&As throughout. So you just ask me any question the entire time, and I'll answer. Yeah, please ask questions throughout the lecture. Yeah. Because I love answering questions. Sometimes I might not know it, but I'll try my best to answer it. But usually I will get it. And also be respectful of your peers. So just don't be like, insulting and saying slurs in the chat, because that wouldn't be cool. Like just don't call anyone out. Have common sense, be courteous. I think I expected the lecture to be like, relatively short compared to last week's, but I have no idea about that. So we'll just have to see. But I expect around 90 minutes to 2 hours. That's about it. Yeah, that should be enough time to cover the entirety of Unit 6 review. Is there a way I can access last week's lecture? Yes. It's on YouTube actually. So, uh, YouTube channel has the lecture. It's just called 5 Hive. If you want the slides though, I believe I have them for you. Unit 6. Yeah, there it is. Okay, there it is. There's the Unit 3 slides. That will be very helpful for your studying for the AP exam. But yeah, any other questions for like non-content related questions? Welcome, welcome if you're just joining. Yeah, we're gonna start. Oh, never mind. What's my favorite color? Green. Yeah. How was my day? It was alright. I kind of didn't like one of my classes today, but that's fine. Okay, the agenda. So, if you guys remember, I don't know when you guys covered Unit 6 throughout your school semester. You guys should be either very close to being done or done with all the units. Maybe with the exception of like Unit 9. Um, and yeah, you finish everything good. That's usually good to finish around April. Some teachers they finish like the end of April, which is, I mean, that's not that great, but it's okay. So you might have to recall back in your memory, back in your rememory, if you know what I mean. Um, if or yeah, recall back in the time period of 1750 to 1900, which is when you were in like, I don't know, February or something, and just, you know, it's a different time period, okay? So, um, okay. So yeah, so there's seven chapters, and each one is relatively like simple and short. So I made them each one slide. Um, but I will elaborate with talking. So, if you missed my lecture, you can refer to the slides, but the slides won't have that much on them, so it's mostly my talking. Okay, let's just start it, all right? Let's get a move on. Hello, everyone. Hello, new new person left. Um, wow, there's only 20 people in here. I thought it was gonna be like 30, 21 people. Hello, there's a new person. Hello, we're just starting the lecture right now, so you made it just in time. Um, yeah, great. Okay, so let's start. Unit 6.1. So it's justification. And so what do I mean by Unit 6 even? I mean imperialism. It's all about imperialism. Um, I think technically they call it like consequences of industrialization. I don't really like that name because really what they mean is imperialism, which is, it's a consequence. And anyway, I think it's kind of a stupid name. But anyway, so what we're talking about is why are we justifying imperialism, right? Because imperialism is, supposed to be bad. And oh no, it's cool, it's cool. So imperialism is supposed to be bad, and we have to justify it because otherwise, one of my history teachers always said like everyone is human and everyone has to sleep at night, right? And so if you do terrible things, right, it's gonna be on your conscience, and you're not gonna be able to sleep at night. So you have to be able to sleep at night and justify things, right? So Um, here are the four things that people use to sleep at night to justify their imperialism, right? So there's social Darwinism, scientific racism, nationalism, and then the burden of the white man, also called I believe it's called the civilization mission or civilizing mission, something along those lines. It's kind of the same thing. Scientific racism and social Darwinism are also they sound very alike, but they do mean different things, and I will explain them. So, social Darwinism, right? Oh, cool. Yeah, so social Darwinism is all about if you guys ever heard of the guy named Charles Darwin, he famously had the theory of evolution. I don't really know when, like the 18 something, 1800s something. And so what he said is that the fittest species survived. Like if a turtle was unable to, eat food or something, and there was a stronger turtle, then the stronger turtle would survive, right? And so that was his survival of the fittest theory. And so people were thinking about that, and they were also thinking about, okay, well, I think we can also apply this to nations. Nations as in, like Britain, America, Colombia, China, stuff like that. And so they said, well, only the fittest countries survive, and then the worst countries, the least fit, they just die out. And so, you know, if the fittest were intended to survive and be the strongest, then why don't they just take up the whole world, right? 'Cause that would be a good thing, right? Wouldn't that be a good thing if everyone was the fittest? And so that was a way that they justified um the way of taking over the entire world, right? So scientific racism is a different. Does it apply to countries and people, or does that apply with scientific racism? So I'm gonna get into that in a little bit. So scientific racism is all about race, right? I mean racism. It's all about race. And so back then they used to hierarchically like place people. You know how like in Hinduism there's like caste system, kind of similar to that. When the Spaniards invaded, uh, conquered the Americas, they had a social hierarchy for like the people from the peninsula were the highest ranked, and the people who are like half Spaniard, and then like mixed peoples, yeah, the caste system, and then like I don't know, Native Americans were like the lowest, right? Same thing. Um, Now they're just saying now there's only two things now. It's just you're white or you're not white, right? White, not white. And this little binary system allowed all the Europeans to see the world in a different way, where they said if you're not white, you're you're scientifically worse than us. We're better, okay? And that's what they said. And they had superior genetics or they had superior intellect or you know, something like that. Yeah, they're inferior to us, so therefore we should conquer them, right? So that's what scientific racism is. And so the difference between scientific racism and social Darwinism are, they sound very alike with the names, but social Darwinism is in the name social, it means society or states or nations, and then scientific racism is all about, being white or, your uh ethnicity, right? Okay, nationalism. This one is probably the easiest to explain. You guys probably already know this. It's just having a, deep love of country or deep love of your ethnic minority or something like that, or your small state or city, right? Just a commonality between people. Like, I mean, technically you can say we have nationalism at the schools. Like, if you like, in one of your classrooms, you hate this one teacher, and so like all like I don't know 30 of you guys band together and like we hate this teacher, right? Like we you guys have a shared hatred of a teacher, right? So I mean that's kind of like an example of nationalism. Um, but during this time period, nationalism was really popular in Germany uh and in Italy. Those two, historically, I think those two nations have been, basically never unified, except in from like the Roman Empire. But like besides from the Roman Empire, like they've never been unified. And so this is the first time in history they've ever been unified through a commonality between each other, right? Because Germany, it was just a collection of states. Italy was just a bunch of cities that were really, really rich. Um, is it like thinking your country's better than others, or is that patriotism? Yeah, kind of like that. It also leads to rivalries, but usually nationalism is about love of your own country. And sometimes love of your own country means that you should hate another country. Sometimes, like with France and Germany. Okay, and then Burden of the White Man. I think you guys know this, right? So back then they said, do y'all know like a good amount of time to practice for April each day? I mean, you don't need a I mean, depends on each person, right? Like for me, I'd never practice every day. I practice like every 3 days or something when I studied for the exam. But some people need to do an hour a day, or some people need to do 3 hours a day. It's different for everyone. But you will know if you're able to grasp some concepts. Anyway, so the burden of the white man is saying, you know, let's just take Africa for example. If Africa is so inferior to us, the white men, then we gotta go help them out, right? We gotta go deliver them a better life. And so we're bringing civilization to them. We're bringing them society and you know civility to them because they're lower than us and we're higher than them. So it's our duty to help the lower inferior people, right? And so that's why we gotta go conquer Africa or something, right? Y'all get that. And then also the civilizing mission also. So we have to remember that there was two waves of imperialism. There was the first one was with the Spaniards, um, and in like the 1500s and Portugal and stuff, right? Where they just took over America. But it's the second wave, in the late 1800s, where they started taking over Africa and China, or not Africa and China, Africa and Asia. Okay. And so they're still sending Christian missionaries just like in the first wave of imperialism. So they're bringing them society and they're also bringing them religion to save their damned nation or something like that, right? Save them from eternal damnation. The Spaniards, yes, they were in Asia. They were in the Philippines. And then I think they also had a colony, or not the Spaniards. Yeah, the Spaniards were in Philippines, but then the Portuguese were also in Asia throughout. They were in Goa. They were in Macau. They were in somewhere in like Indonesia, I think. I don't really remember. But there's numerous examples. Okay, I think we're ready to move on. What are you guys talking about in chat? Let's see. Okay. Let's move on. Okay. Let's move on. All right. Yes. This is what I was saying, that my slides only really have pictures. They don't really have words. Yes. Okay. So I'm gonna explain these two pictures. So on the actually, how about this? In the left, can you guys explain the left cartoon image? The cartoon, political cartoon. Can you guys explain that? How they justified imperialism? Can you guys explain that in the chat? Explain it in the chat, everyone. I encourage everyone to participate. It might sound stupid, but um, did you just say Sisyphus? Okay. I encourage everyone to participate in the chat, even though it sounds really dumb. I promise you it does help. I promise you it does help. Um, one must imagine Sisyphus. And so the AP exam really loves to use political cartoons. Um, yes, we are explaining the left picture. The left, explaining it. Just explain it. Yeah. The AP exam really loves to choose political cartoons as some of the documents in the DBQ question, as well as, yeah, and maps, as well as in the MCQ sometimes. Um, the MCQ, actually, often, a lot of times there are a lot of political cartoons in the MCQs. So it's really important to understand these political cartoons. And honestly, I actually really like to see them because they're always so funny to me. Um, but also because whenever there's a stimulus, I hate reading like a big passage. I just like looking at the picture, and usually I can just figure it out faster than reading a big document. But that's just me. Oh, who was drawing them? Actually, I think Dr. Seuss drew them. You can search him up. I think he did. He drew a lot of the American ones, I believe. Yeah, he was a political cartoonist. All right, let's go over some of these answers. Um, it portrays them as people who are working hard to provide for the black people as a burden for the white men. Yep, that's good, I guess. The first one includes scientific racism too, doesn't it? Um, a little bit, but there's a better one to explain. Uncle Sam's holding ethnic people, sure. Europeans carrying the burden to civilize these nations that they believe are inferior as a justification. Perfect. By Star. Star, you get a gold star. How do we get a star? Yeah, you get a gold star. Um, Literally the white man's burden, the ethnic studies, and the ethnic people are a burden to the white man, yet he chooses to carry them anyways. That's good. The title does say white man's burden, yeah. So if you can't see this, I mean, I don't know if you guys can. It might be too small, but on the top of the mountain, there's like a gold statue, and it's supposed to represent like civilization and like glory and uh and like good things. You know, it's supposed to symbolize good. And then Uncle Sam, and I believe this is like the king or something of England, or a royal, is holding up a bunch of savages, right? Holding them up, climbing them to the top of the mountain, which is the civilizing mission. And so the right is also related to imperialism. It is not related to what I've previously mentioned over here, but it is mentioned to imperialism, more importantly, economic imperialism, but we will get back to it later. But really, it's all about money. Look at these big fat men. Look at them. Trusts. Have you ever taken a push? This is a very relevant political cartoon image. Alright, let's get going. So, we're talking about the second wave of imperialism now, right? And so the second wave of imperialism is fundamentally very different from the first wave of imperialism, right? So, um, oh yeah, I include an image of American imperialism. So American imperialism, um, America did not participate in the first wave of imperialism. They were actually conquered. They were conquered, right? But they did participate in the second wave, which was in the late 1800s. And so you can see like the development of America, right? I love these political cartoons where they show Uncle Sam growing and maturing into just a beast, right? Look at him. Look at him. Um, but really, what we're going to talk about now is the expansion, or how these imperial states expanded, right? They were empires, right? They had emperors, okay? And so let's think about it. In the 1450s to 1700s, we were focusing on conquering America, right? And conquering South America. Now, with this new time period, 1750 to 1900, we're going to be focusing on Africa and Asia. Because, remember, you know, basically all of South America revolted against Spanish imperialism. They created their own countries. Yeah, there was a bunch of revolutions. I believe this is Unit 5. If you guys remember, you guys can look at your notes. But Unit 5 always talks about, all the new states, Mexico, the United States, Bolivia, Colombia. I don't know if Brazil is revolted yet. Chile, I think, Peru. Yeah, so a bunch of nations are new and born out of this revolution, and so Europe, the colonizers are thinking like, okay, well we can't take over that place because it's already been taken over and they don't want us there, so we need to find a new place to take over. Um, yeah. So we need to find a new place to take over, which could be Africa maybe, or could be Asia. And so they started focusing on a new place. Um, and also there's a new shift in power between, the time period earlier to the time period now, from the 1450s to 1700s, all the way to, the 1800s. Um, Portugal and Spain are no longer the big players of 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 the European continent, right? The big players of Europe now are Britain, France. Uh, it's not called Germany yet, but Prussia. Um, not Holland, Netherlands. Um, who else? A little bit of Italy, maybe. I think that's it. Maybe Austria, Hungary, a little bit, or Austria. But really, it's just Britain, France, and and uh, and the Dutch, right? Why not Spain? So Spain, there's a combination of factors as why Spain is getting a lot weaker. Um, what does the British farming refer to? Oh, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. Okay. So, yeah. So Britain and Britain, France, and the Dutch are getting a lot stronger. Spain and Portugal are not getting stronger. They are actually getting weaker. So these new countries are gonna take over this imperialistic game, right? The great game or whatever. And so it's new conquering stuff time. And so Britain is farming for the late game. What I mean by that, it's kind of stupid the way I said that. Um, Britain originally during the first wave of imperialism, they weren't really that strong, right? I mean, I think they just came out of um, a 100-year war with France, and then they went into like a 30-year war, right? And then they went into a 7 years war, and they were just losing everything, and they lost America, and America, I mean the United States, and yeah, and then so the British, you know, they were getting poorer. They did have India. I will give them that. They did have India, so they were pretty strong, but they were waiting for their time to shine, which was after industrialization. And so remember, industrialization started in I don't really remember. I think it was in like Manchester or somewhere there, right? Somewhere in England. And so really, that was like their farming, right? They were like they were farming for the late game, I guess. And they were getting super strong with the industrialization, so that no one could see them coming when they just took over like the entire world in like 100 years. They took over the entire world essentially, which is actually diabolical. You know, Japan is also getting a lot stronger with the Meiji Reformation, something like that. They're industrializing heavily, and so what we can note is whoever is industrializing the most is going to get the most strong, the most powerful, right? And that's what Britain is doing, and also France, and Germany too, I guess, and also the Netherlands. Um, but yeah, so yeah, that's who's winning for me. So some key terms to remember: the Berlin Conference. Diet was formed under the Meiji Restoration. You're gonna have to explain that more. So the Berlin Conference was it was a conference where it was like, how long can we, or how, like, who who can who can rape Africa the most? That was essentially the question. And then also Otto von Bismarck, he was the guy in charge of creating that conference, right? And then colonies, you guys know what a colony is, right? It's just an extension of another state. Okay. But what I wanted to talk about is there are multiple methods of imperial expansion. And what I mean by that is, oh, you're gonna stick to Highlander? That's cool. That's cool. So there's multiple ways to expand your empire, right? And so usually the way that most states did it is with their military or with colonies. And so those two are different things if you didn't know. So colonies or settler colonies were when a state would, create a small branch of itself in another society or in another nation. So think about Britain and India, right? Originally they were on the coast, just a little tiny little trading post, right? But eventually they would eventually conquer the entirety of India. And so that's an example of a settler colony. It was just a small little colony in which there was, a very small amount of British people. But eventually, they took over the entire subcontinent. Okay. You can also use warfare to take over an entire nation, right? So, an example might be France and Algeria. So France just literally just marched the army straight into Algiers, and then they just took it. They just took the entire country, and it was diabolical. You can also use diplomacy to make political agreements to take over places. So that was the Berlin Conference. I trust that you know that already, so I'm not going to talk about that. And also, you can conquer neighboring territories, not just overseas. So think about the United States. If you guys remember in APUSH or anything, there was the Indian Removal Act, and then they just They started manifesting their destiny, right? Just started expanding westward. Same thing with the Russians, except the Russians went east, right? They went to Siberia and they just took everything. They took all the land. Japan is doing the same thing as well with their shogunate. They're just taking everything with their military, right? So yeah, those are different ways of expanding your empire, I suppose. Okay. Yes, we are. I'm recording it, and it will be posted on YouTube. Okay. Yep, no problem. Just it should be posted today or tomorrow. Tonight or tomorrow. Okay, so we finished all about expanding our empire. So how are we gonna? Actually, no, we're gonna study now what happened to the people that we conquered, as in how did they resist and fight back against us, right? And when I say us, I mean we're in the perspective of the colonizers, right? So lots of groups are going against political authority or the imperial authority, right? So this goes back to the Enlightenment. I think this was like in Unit 3 or Unit 4, so I don't really remember. But it was the scientific revolution and then the Enlightenment happened together. And so it created the Enlightenment created a new sense of democracy and you know like personal freedoms, internal freedoms, unalienable rights. Right? Think about the U.S. Declaration of Independence, kind of like that. And so with all these Enlightenment stuff, um, uh, these people that are getting conquered, they realize that um, they need to start rebelling against them so they can have a state of their own. Right? Kind of similar to like what the United States did. They rebelled against the authority, Britain, and they got a new country out of it. Right? And so these conquered peoples are thinking about doing that, but it usually does not go well for them. So I gave you guys three examples. In the U.S., there's the Cherokee people. So the Cherokee are a Native American group. I believe they're in like Georgia, and they were sent to walk all the way to Oklahoma by President Andrew Jackson. In South Africa, there was the I'm probably gonna butcher this name, but the Xhosa people. Some uh they had a big rebellion called the cow killing rebellion. They slaughtered a bunch of cows for some reason. I'm not really sure why. And then in India there was something called the Sepoy Mutiny. And so you don't really need to know these specific examples. You just need to know that they happened. You don't need to know exactly what happened in the rebellion of 1857, right? But it's important to know that they did rebel. Right? They weren't just sitting ducks, just waiting to get conquered by the British, right? So that's an important thing. And yeah, okay, yeah. So there was a direct, or not. There was a growing sense of nationalism amongst these states, right? The Indians, they were growing. They collectively hated the British. They joined together to create a big mutiny. So that's why I'm saying that nationalism is a really strong unifier in people who can band together to overthrow someone they really don't like. And this is also prevalent in Unit 5. This is a pretty short chapter. Oh yeah, the picture over here, this is I think this is China, and then they're watching all the imperial states conquer and split up their territory. Slicing the cake or something like that. I don't know what it's called. Okay. Okay, this looks so informal. Okay, so 6.4. So global economic changes. This is probably where you should spend the most time studying. So previous to imperialism, there was the main monetary system, economic system of basically the entire civilized world was mercantilism. Mercantilism. It's not a very good way of doing things, to be honest. It requires a lot of state control, um, which is, basically impossible as states get more democratic. Um, no tea. You recommend no tea? I don't recommend no tea, but everyone has their own opinions. Yeah, definitely what Brit Detective said. So everyone started going towards capitalism, and so what is the difference between capitalism, right? Um, and mercantilism. So mercantilism is, the state saying we should trade as much as possible, and what I mean by that is we should export more than we import, so we can, get the most money, and make everyone else go into debt. Um, Capitalism is it's okay. I'm not gonna explain. You guys know what capitalism. You guys live in a capitalist world anyway. You guys know what it is. Uh, but it was introduced by Adam Smith. All right, so he's a big name to remember. He wrote a I forgot what the book it was called, like Wealth of Nations, The Wealth of Nations, something like that. Where he introduced the kind of the it wasn't really I don't think it was capitalism yet. But but it was the bare minimum of it. It was kind of like the uh the skeleton of it, right? Um, 1776. Oh, that was the Declaration of Independence year, and he was Scottish. Yeah, he was pretty smart though. He was always talking about some specialization. Okay. So what Adam Smith suggested was he didn't suggest it exactly, but people inferred that the colonies should do the work and give raw materials to the colonizers or the imperial state, right? The colonies should do the work for the big boys. And what I mean by that is that um so okay, let's go back. Before imperialism, people used to farm, and the way they used to farm was, let's say you're growing potatoes, or you're growing I don't know, wheat, right? You would only grow as much as you need and for the winter. Um so basically this is called sustenance farming, where you would just grow as much as you need to eat and everyone else, right? But when imperial powers were introduced, they they there was a new way of farming where they farmed something called cash crops, right? And I think you guys know this. A famous example of cash crops is indigo and cotton, and I think rice was one. Uh, Corn maybe. Champa rice. I don't think champa rice was a cash crop. Oh, tobacco. Oh, can't believe I forgot that one. Tobacco. That's a big one. Cotton was huge because um cotton was huge because there was textiles in Britain, especially during this time. So the United States would grow so much cotton, and they would just send it straight to Britain, which was it made so much money. It was diabolical, right? It was absolutely diabolical. Okay, but who's gonna grow all these stuff? Who's gonna grow this stuff, right? We remember with the justification. We are better than them. They are inferior to us. So guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna create slavery. And we're gonna make them work for us. Alright, we're gonna make the inferiors work for us. And that's what um these industrialists they wanted. They created a system where they would have labor um made made possible by, the inferior class. Uh yeah, and then so these imperial powers, they fundamentally transformed these economies to their own interests. And what I mean by their own interests, as in like a company's interest. So take for example the British East India Company, right? They farmed they sold tea, right? And I think they sold textiles as well. Um, Basically they transformed India in a way where India was made for their trading and only their trading, right? So there would be so much cotton and so much tobacco and so many cash crops grown wherever they were. And so they transformed the entire economy of the place. Even if um yeah, they just transformed it, especially for natural resources like oil or iron or I don't know, like natural waterways, right? You know, great big rivers and stuff. Okay. But also, these imperial powers, they needed the raw materials for their factories, right? Remember that factories are a thing happening during the Industrial Revolution. What do you need in factories to make product? You need to have raw materials, and they come from, let's say, a place where cash crops are grown, like India. Okay. You also need to supply food to go to London, right? London is growing immensely right now. It is, I think London is like I don't know when, like maybe 1800s or the turn of the 18th century, turn of the 19th century, London becomes the first city, besides like in the Roman Empire, the first city to have 1 million people, right? That's like, remember, the Roman Empire was so like in the I don't know when, like the 100s or something, when they had 1 million people in Rome. Now in London, it's like 1600, 1700 years later. Now there's finally a city with 1 million people. That's crazy. In the entirety of human history, London is the first city after Rome. And so London has so many people, you need to feed everyone. So guess what? We need to import food from somewhere else because London does not have enough space to grow wheat. And so um there was a dependence on food grown from other places that would be imported. And so that's what I'm saying is that companies get more money and there's also more agriculture and you have more labor going towards the imperialist economy. So this is just a circle, right? It's just going in a straight circle where there's factories are making more products for people to buy, and then those people in the colonies buy it, then they supply the materials, and then it just keeps going over and over and over, right? The effects of economic development. So there was also okay, you know what? We don't need to get through that. Just that's not important. Yeah, but more importantly, the state grows very, very rich, and companies get a lot of money. Okay, especially Britain. I mean, I think this is a German shop, I think, but Britain is getting a lot of money. Oh no, this is England. This image is England. You can see Rothschild. That's a famous banking family. Cecil Rhodes right here. He's got a bunch of gold. Chamberlain, honestly, I don't even know who he is. And Salisbury, I don't know. I'm pretty sure I remember that name from somewhere. Okay. Anyway, let's go. This is going to be a short chapter. It's going to be called Economic Imperialism. I did not write much again. Um, A push. Why are we talking about A push in the chat? Let's get focused, y'all. Okay, so economic imperialism. So in this image, it's I don't know what they're doing. I think they're carving up Asia. You can see Vanderbilt's knife. Uh, okay, it's too small to see. But this is like the colony over here, and this is if in the very top left corner is the motherland, like England or something, right? France. Okay, so during this time period, there's the best case of economic imperialism. If you ever see economic imperialism on your exam, is you just think opium wars, or the opium conflict in China. So you guys know this one, but um Britain is exporting a bunch of opium, and so China is like, remember China during this time is like, they got held back a grade. They they weren't able to industrialize fast enough, such that Britain came over and took over their stuff, and so really now they're under the rule, not like not officially, but really they're pulling the strings behind the scenes is that they're making China do what they want. and so they open up a bunch of spheres of influence for France, Germany, Austria, Portugal, Britain, of course, right? And then they also force China to buy it. They say, "Hey, China, buy my drugs," right? And then so China buys their drugs, and they realize that this is a public health nightmare. So they ban the illegal substance, and Britain says, "Okay, well, I still want money." So they start exporting it illegally to China. Um, China throws a bunch of crates into the ocean, and then they have a fight over those things. And Britain obviously wins because they have more guns and more boats with guns, gunboats. Okay, so why is this significant? Okay, so because of this war, China is forced to sign a unfair treaty, an unfair document where you know the great powers are allowed to take over their stuff and force open ports and give them some land, Hong Kong, right? Hong Kong. And yeah, it was recently handed over Hong Kong in I think like 1997 or something. I don't really remember. Yeah, but something like that. And so you need to know that China is no longer the big dog. Um, like in Units 3, Units 2, they cannot industrialize fast enough, and they're just small. They're the small dog now, right? England is the big dog. So the Qing dynasty, which is the dynasty in power, is just crumbling. There's there's also a lot of corruption in there's corruption in the chat, right? There's so much corruption that there isn't, and then there's just a bunch of children as the emperors, right? Like what the hell? There's like a 5-year-old on the throne. Like, are you kidding me? So the Qing dynasty is just not going well, and um yeah, and then so France and Britain just take advantage of this stuff. And so the idea for Britain and France is that if we make the other people poor, aka China, aka India, we're gonna get hella money. We're gonna get a lot and lot of money. So much money. They are so rich that it is crazy that they can do anything they want. And these companies are so strong, and eventually it gets absorbed under the state. So eventually the state becomes really powerful and really rich. Okay. There's also another example, the port of Buenos Aires. It's in Argentina. I believe it's the capital. I think. But basically, Britain invested in Argentina to, improve their like their society, and so they invested into it. They wanted raw materials, and they said, okay, if we help you guys now, you guys have to give us raw materials later. And so Argentina exported a bunch of stuff to Britain, and therefore they became very reliant. They were held in a chain by Britain because Britain put them, they're in debt to Britain, so they're forced to give them raw materials, and raw materials are great for Britain because they're good for the factories, right? So this economic imperialism, it forces these nations to be chained to their colonizer essentially, right? So it's not taking over militarily, but it's taking over economically. Um, so I think a good modern day example might be China. China is giving out huge amounts of money to help build infrastructure in like third world countries. They're indebted to China now. It's not for raw materials, so I think it's for labor, but it's the same idea. Okay. Okay, I did not put an image here. I don't know why I didn't. This is gonna be a pretty short one, so there's also a lot of migration happening during this era. A great example is the Ireland potato famine. Um, I don't know what exactly happened, but all the potatoes had like a disease, and I don't know how many people, like 1 million people died or something, but a lot of them moved to continental Europe, A lot of people moved to the United States, especially especially the United States. There was a lot of Irish, and it developed the growth of cities in the United States, right? Like New York, right? Chicago, right? Boston. Uh, I'm probably missing a couple, but there was a great number of cities that were introduced with lots and lots of Irish settlers, immigrants. Sorry. Migration also happened because of labor. So, uh, there, there's a there's an all right example for this. Like, there could be like indentured servitude, right? So, uh, Britain, they would force their indentured servants to go to Australia, right? And nowadays Australia is like, most people there are they're descendants of they have English descent or Anglo descent, right? And that's imperialism, right? That's a colony of Britain. Um, they also used Chinese indentured servants in Malaysia, Britain. They're honestly doing a lot of effed up stuff. There's also voluntary labor, right? So, let's say you live in a tiny farm in outside of London, right? You're probably gonna move to the city because there's more work there. You need to make a way to live. So, and also there's more cities and railroads and transportation, right? So it's so easy to hop on a train and just go wherever you want nowadays, with all this industrialization. So the key thing I want you to understand is that in the last unit you learned all about industrialization and how it happened. Unit 6 is talking about the entire world has changed. There is no going back. It is a brand new world. All right? And there's so much stuff that is happening, and it hastens the pace of world history because, you know, we seem to think that that the amount of time between 1850 to 1900 is the same amount of time as, you know, 1700 to 1800, even though there's a 50-year difference. But it's because there's so much more stuff happening, right? Industrialization allows things to happen faster and allows more events to happen in a smaller period of time, which is really what history is about. And so nowadays, right, as you know, history, as the years grow, there's so many things happening in just a month, right? Okay, let's go. Let's do this now. Okay. The effects of migration. So I don't think you guys need to know this that much. It's not that important. But there's a gender imbalance, right? So all the men, they left their farms to go to the cities to work in the factories, right? So there's a lot more men in the cities than women. And the women are left behind on their farms and small plantations and whatnot. Um, ethnic enclaves. So ethnic enclaves are, remember when I was talking about the Irish in New York or something, or the Italians. I mean, the Italians, a lot of them, Southern Italians, migrated to New York as well, right? So there's small little enclaves. You call them ethnic enclaves, where they just live, right? So there's like a Chinatown in New York. There's probably a little Italy, right? Um, it's a small community of concentrated ethnicity and culture, right? Nativism. So nativism is especially true in the United States. If you are familiar with APUSH, knowing APUSH and AP World is a great way to learn both of them. But in the United States, there's something called the Know Nothing Party, I believe. The Know Nothing Party, and they are a nativist political party which opposes immigration. So there's a lot of nativism, which means to um kind of say like we don't want immigration. We don't like immigrants. That's what nativism is. It's like to protect the ethnicity of the current state. Okay. There's the cultural diffusion. All right. So it's just diffusion. You guys know in like what biology or something? Diffusion is like when things like water down, right? So culture gets mixed together, especially in the United States. United States is a great example for a lot of Unit 6. Um, there's a lot of cultural mixing, diffusion, right? Um, there's also the Chinese Exclusion Act. So the United States again, right? United States banned Chinese immigration. Oh yeah, we are on 6.7. 6.7. Um, yeah, the Chinese Exclusion Act. So there were way too many Chinese immigrants to the United States, where they enacted a policy which restricted Chinese immigration in the 1880s to 1890s. And there's also the White Australia policy. So I'm just like talking. I feel like I'm boring you guys, but the White Australia policy is talking about keeping Australia British from Asian immigrants, right? So this is something that the British enacted. It's basically the Chinese Exclusion Act of Australia. So these are some great examples of them. Uh, you probably won't get a question on like on the DBQ or LEQ about something like immigration effects. Probably more something like probably more fundamental like economic or imperialistic expansion. But this is still important to sometimes name drop, especially as a it's good to have buzzwords on the LEQs and DBQs for outside evidence points. They're really great to have. And so I will show you guys a strategy later about that. Okay. So if you are hearing me, I want you to type in the chat and answer these two questions. What is economic imperialism and why were states expanding during this period? Okay. And try not to use Google for this because I'll be able to see who was listening. No, I'm just kidding. But still, please try and participate. I swear this will help you um, grow as a learner. It might not seem like it, but it will definitely help. Okay, trust me. So, what is economic imperialism? I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of time. Six, 7. Okay. It seems like everyone's done. I'm going to read over these now. So, who wrote this one? Mellow Sweet. Okay. Economic imperialism examples include scrambles for Africa, annexing, uh, opium wars. Perfect. I love to talk about economic. Whenever I talk about economic imperialism, I love to talk about opium wars because it's such a perfect example. Uh, States were expanding because of money and to make them dominant. That's right. Competition among European countries, right, is one of the driving factors of imperialism. Economic imperialism is exerting indirect control of the economy of state. Oh, that's a perfect, infinitely, that's a perfect definition of economic imperialism, by the way. This can include mobilizing the industry of another country on loans or aid from another country. Perfect. Wow, did you already know this, or did you already just learn this? I don't know. Industrialization was one of the main causes of expansion. Yep, it is. Honestly, if you were to name one, it would be like the only one. We also use a lot of social and often racial and illogical justifications to expand. There's the civilizing mission. Perfect. All right, so it seems like you guys got this. All right. So guess what? You guys are gonna participate even more. All right, watch this. Boom, SAQ. Let me take a picture of this. So I believe this was on the 2023 FRQ. Okay. So please look at the map and answer the questions. Okay. Please look at the map and answer the questions. And I encourage everyone to participate in the chat. Please. So the first one, an economic development, that should be pretty easy with the map. And remember, look at the source. This is in 1910, the international relations of the Chinese Empire. All right. So looking at the source is pretty important in these. So I encourage you, if you're not already typing, please participate in the activity. It will help you learn, I promise. A 13. What does that mean? Oh, 13 points. How many points are total? I forgot. Ah, 1/3. Oh, that's not good. Uh, um, to be honest, the SAQ should be the freest part of the exam, but I don't know what to say. They're like the bare minimum essay, kind of. Mm, yeah, DBQ, you get the docs. But the thing is, whenever I get a DBQ, I often find it hard to create some outside evidence because the docs already mentioned the outside evidence I was going to mention. So sometimes it's hard to get the outside evidence point. Or, wait. Okay, it's been a while since I did AP history. Wow. You do like, you get a point for outside evidence and you also get a point for complexity for using 7 documents, I remember. I like the LEQ a lot because you can make stuff up, to be honest. You can make your own outside evidence. If you're just clever enough about it, you can just do it yourself. Okay, is anyone actually answering the SAQ, or are we just like talking? I mean, it's cool, but like, okay, good. What questions? I'm showing you right now. Yeah, it's on my screen. Use this image. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. One economic development in the period 1750 to 1900. See, so I already like the way you started it off. Um, is you say one economic development, it's like you just identify it. Right? In the period of that led to the situation represented in the map was economic imperialism. Maybe sometimes when it says identify, it usually means you only need one sentence. But I often find it's safer to use 2 sentences. So then you explain what economic imperialism is. So you can say, so represented in the map was economic imperialism. Economic imperialism was a blank, was a way of blah blah blah. Okay. B. One political. So we're identifying still. One political development in the period that led to the situation represented in the map was the uses of spheres of influence by many countries that led to China to open up and allow for trade with other countries. This led other countries to be able to economically imperialize China. Yeah, that would work. Um, okay, obviously I'm not an AP grader, right? But it might be a little bit risky to say this led to other countries to be able to economically imperialize China, because we're only talking about political development. Okay, C. Uh, One reason why the survey of the Canton factories was carried out by the British Royal Navy was because Britain had a sphere of influence on China, and since they took control of this portion, they knew about the factory facilities well that were located in this area. Yeah, sure, that would get it. Yeah, that's a good format. It's overall that's the format that you should use. Okay, pin it. Oh, I can pin it. I can't pin it. I don't have permission to pin it. Sorry, cannot pin it. Some okay. The thing is like the Opium Wars were not a development. They were more like an event. It's hard to say what the difference is between a development and an event, but um a development is usually something that takes place over, many years. Like maybe like, decades, like 20 years, right? This is more of an event though. With China's failure to win the war creating many spheres of influence. See, I mean, here you would only really talk about economic imperialism. I mean, that's like the best thing to talk about, Leo. Okay. Are you guys in ninth grade, 10th grade? I think I did AP World in 10th grade. Yeah, yeah, ninth. Yeah, some people do AP World History in ninth grade as well. Yeah. Oh, why are you here then? If you already did AP World, just here to have fun, I guess. It's cool. That's cool. Um, okay. Oh my gosh, why are there so many people leaving, man? Jesus, we had like 23 people. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's true. You know what? I'm probably it's like 9 p.m. in Eastern time or something. Yeah, that's probably my fault. Well, if you're in Eastern time, tell me what time you would like for me to lecture next time. PST for the win, exactly. 6:30 latest. Wow. Um, dude, that's 3 p.m. for me. Remember? Like, imagine, right? Um, I'm at school, right? I'm at school. But I think I might make it work on like Thursdays or Wednesdays. So what are the right answers? So what Sacro Act said was really well put together. This one was really well put together. There's no such thing as a right answer, but there are such things as really good answers. Oh, thank you. Uneven industrialization eventually spurred the exploitation of non-industrialized countries to fit the needs of raw materials and benefits. Holy crap, this sounds like buzzword heaven. But I think that would be correct. Following China's loss in the Opium Wars, fueled by its relative lack of industrialization and political instability, European industrialized countries initially carved China into spheres of influence. Open door policy, perfect. Oh my gosh. I didn't even talk about the open door policy. I should have. And their economic interference in China. Yeah, perfect. B is really well put together. Infinitely intuitive. B is really good. By this period, the Royal Navy had already exerted a large amount of economic and political control due to the Treaty of Nanjing, which uneven economic inequalities, more control in terms of trade. Yeah, okay. C is good. Remember, whenever you see identify and explain, you remember identify is usually like one sentence, maybe like one and a half sentences. Explain is usually two and a half to three. Okay. Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. I mean, if you answer an identify question as explained, you still get the point, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. But the thing is that you're when you're in the, oh shoot, they do it on computers now. I remember I did it on paper, the exam. Um, but when you do the AP exam, you're like, you're like sweating and your heart is beating and like you didn't eat breakfast or something. I don't know. Um, and you just gotta save as much time as you can, right? Because you don't want to waste any time. You don't have that much time for the SAQs, right? SAQs you do have to go pretty fast though. I can't lie. The paper wasn't that bad. Honestly, I liked it. But the thing is, writing the LEQ was crazy because it would fucking hurt my hand. And I just swore on camera, on video. Okay. Yeah. So usually for the LEQs, I like to have like 5 to 10 minutes of just thinking, and then I start writing. SAQ you can't though. That's the thing. 8th grade. You did an AP exam in 8th grade? That's crazy. Why? Why did you do that? Pre-calc and CSP. Oh, so like the two least important exams. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, they are the exams that don't give credit like anywhere. I am. It's true though. It's true. Finished BC in 10th grade. Oh, that's pretty cool. AP Environmental Science. I heard environmental science is very interesting. That's what I heard. sorry your dog got to the rabbits. Um, Probably not good for the rabbits. I never took environmental science. Yeah. I did. What did I do? Actually, when I was in 10th grade, my school has a lottery system where you have to apply to get into an AP class, and I really wanted to do AP World. And I applied. I never got it, and so um, I just self-studied for the exam, and I got a 5. But I remember starting Unit 1 in February. So if you think are running out of time or you're cooked, don't worry, you're not cooked. I went through the entire AP curriculum in 3 months and I got a 5. Okay. I heavily recommend Heimler. He's cool. He's all right. He's not that interesting though. He's kind of boring. Um, I used to watch like French Revolution videos, and so those were really cool. And so I talked a lot about the French Revolution in my LEQs. I also talked about Alexander the Great's empire or something. What is it called? The Seljuk. Oh no, 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 that's not Alexander. The Seljuk Turks. But I talked about them. All right, time for me to hop off. All right, we will see you. And oh wait, wait, before you hop off, actually, do this form. Okay, do this form. It will take 2 minutes. Okay. And so basically, what this form does is it tells me what I did good and what I did bad. Right? And you don't need to rate me good or anything, but it should be honest. Another form. You only did one. What? This is the only one. Um. Yes. Please do the form. It helps me get better at lecturing. The last sessions. Yeah, but we're kind of obligated. Like, if you join Five Hive, you kind of are obligated to do this. Hack it. You should do it now, definitely. Okay, goodbye. Goodbye. So please do this form if you can. Um, it will very, very, very help me a lot. Okay. It is anonymous though, so wow, only 10 people. So what happened was a lot of people just started leaving uh midway through, which is okay. I mean, it's still April, so still April, still close to the exam. That's true. That's true. But last year I started my lectures like around May 5th or something. So yeah. But I got so little people joining my lectures last year because it interfered with Heimler History's lectures on live streams on YouTube because he does those every year, and those are really useful. And I don't know why, but like all every AP student like says the same stuff. They always say cooked chat or something. They always say that, and so now they're probably all gonna say like 6-7. I don't know. What am I talking? What am I saying? What am I talking about? By the way, if I say that, it's not an obligation to type it in chat. Just so you know. I'm actually doing AP Gov right now. I'm a senior. I'm in 12th grade. Yeah. Yeah, I noticed that a lot of people they do it in ninth grade or they do it in 12th grade. You just call me Unk? Chat, can you know the perfect answer? Yeah, Sakura Axe was like was was pretty perfect. It was like a 95%, at least to me. Um, I think number two was a little bit blabbermouth though. He just talked too much. Oh, why? Okay, I'll explain it. So, wait, let me go back to the questions. So for number one economic development in the period 1750 to 1900. That's a good way to start it off, right? You always want to start your response to any type of essay question, your thesis essentially. It always wants to be one thing that did this in the period of X was blah blah blah, or one thing that did that was this, right? And you always want to do like that. So one economic development in the period of 1750 to 1900 that led to the development in the situation was economic imperialism. Okay, and so what Sakharov Act did is they just identified it, and that's okay because in the prompt you only need to identify. For B, they also identified. They didn't explain it, but it's fine if you explain it. It's better to be over prepared, right? So they explained it with the same sentence structure. And then for C, the C is one reason why the survey because Britain had a sphere influence. Yeah, I mean, C is hard to answer, but I think that would get the point. Rephrase the question? Yeah, okay. I asked Gemini and it said 3 expected to be more specific, so I got the point for A, B, and C. I need to be more specific. Um, hmm. Imperialism is political, but he said, or they said, economic imperialism. So it's an economic development. It is. It also is a political one. Mm-hmm. You can also say industrialization. Industrialization is not political. It is it's more of like a societal development, but it's also an economic one as well. And remember, so when I was lecturing, oh my gosh, we have 8 people now. When I was lecturing, all these things, remember, we are still thinking about the four historical thinking strategies, right? The continuity and change, comparison, correlation, all that stuff, right? You always need to be talking about that. That's just how AP history works, okay? Okay. Any more questions? And then the mock is reviewed later. Okay, so the thing is, right? We are not a part of College Board, so I can't issue like an official mock lecture, I think, or mock exam. Like, if I give you guys like an exam, technically I cannot say it is gonna be like the the AP exam. Technically. I can say it is going to be very similar, but I cannot say it is, you know, going to be very similar. Or it's going to be alike, right? Only Blue Book is allowed to do that, which is part of a College Board. If I have practiced mock exams, maybe they do. I don't really. I haven't checked 5 Hive in a long time. Let's see. Um, World History Modern. So accept the cookies. Yep, no problem. Make sure you do the form. Um, where is the mock? Hmm. Hmm. So I can't give you guys like I cannot give you guys MCQs because they don't release those, but I can give you guys FRQs. Um, and I can also do some. I can do yeah, I can also give you guys like questions under the table, but I probably shouldn't say that. Let's see, sample responses. These are good to look at. I think this was the year that I took it. Yeah. But these are really good to look at. But yeah, anyways, if you guys have anything to say, I will probably end the lecture soon. Okay? Cool. PCSP. I don't even know what it's about to be honest, but yeah, it probably is. I took CSA, which is I think pretty different from CSP. I don't know. I never did CSP. I think it's very different though. Okay, well, if there are no further questions, I can release you guys. Um, does it help to like make a presentation, kind of summarizing everything to study? Oh, here it is. So this is from some YouTuber, I forgot, but this is a great um summary of what might be from Unit 6 on the AP exam. Okay. And so some stuff I didn't actually a lot of stuff I didn't cover, but it's because I deemed it not very useful. Obviously, I'm not from College Board, so I guess there's no reason to trust me technically, but um, I would think that if I did well on the exam, I think you would probably too if you followed my lead. Okay? Any other pressing questions? Otherwise, I will end the lecture. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Wait, are you also taking AP World reading? Hmm. Yeah, no problem. No problemo. Yeah, so you guys can leave. Just leave whenever you want. I'm not forcing you to. Yep, thank you. Thank you. Hive mind. Just like 5 Hive. 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 Yep. Oh, yep. Lolo the goat. That's right. Yep. Yep. I hopefully I believe in myself. But I'm memorizing all these cases is kind of getting to my head. I think I just learned the Tinker v. Des Moines. I just learned the one about school prayer, which was Engel versus Vitali. There was another school one. I forgot what it was though. Oh, I just did Shank versus United States, New York Times versus United States. Uh, I forgot what Lopez was. I think it was something about the federal government being stronger than the state government. Uh, which was also about like McCulloch versus Maryland, I think. McCulloch versus Maryland. Um, what was the one about judicial review again? Madison versus someone. Mary Maribel versus Madison. Maribel. Marbury. Yes, that's what I said. Yeah. I should look up USB Lopez. I forgot what it was. Oh, I should stop the recording. I'm gonna stop the recording.